signal. Okay. We're good. Okay. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Potsdam. We welcome our members, our friends, the ones here in body, the ones that will be online, and later on watching us on YouTube, which I haven't had the guts to look at myself out there yet, by the way. We are 55 years young, and though much has happened in that time in our fellowship and the area and the world around us, our core values have not changed. We continue to believe that every person matters. Diversity is a gift to be celebrated, and our different backgrounds make for an open and vibrant congregation. Because no matter our different backgrounds or reasons for walking through that door the first time or all subsequent times, we are all here because we want to be with our fellowship family for this morning. Our services reflect these varying voices, and one week can be very different from the next. But we all hope in some way, in some small way, touch your spirit, your heart, or your mind. And, sorry, we don't want to exclude one. So whoever you are, wherever you come from, we are so glad to see you here today. If anybody here has not been here before, grab one of us after the service and we'll give you a little tour. And if you haven't signed the book out there, go ahead and sign the book. It'll allow, or the book, little piece of paper that will allow you to get the Sojourner, which is our newsletter. And there are also hard copies out front if you'd like to pick one up. I'm Mary Ryan. I'm your service presenter this morning. Carly Shell is our pianist. Emily Quarles-Maurer is doing our tech duties. And Sam Barthouse will be lighting our chalice this morning. And of course, the most important reason that everybody comes, coffee hour is served after service. So now is the time for announcements. Anyone have an announcement to make?
Hi, I'm Rick. I have two announcements primarily for the committee chairs. So if you're not a committee chair, you can tune out. Announcement number one, please remember to check your UU Pottstown email addresses that I've assigned to each of you and make sure you can get into them. Going forward, this will be the only way of communicating with you from the board or from other committees. And then number two, oh, and let me know if you have trouble getting into those accounts. And number two, it's budget time. So at the next month's May's Committee Council meeting, which will be May 18th at 8 p.m. Please come prepared to discuss your budgetary needs for the year. So think about your committee's goals for the year and come prepared to talk about budget. It'll be so much.
I'm John. I'd like to have a short meeting regarding facilities after coffee hour. Start at 12 o'clock. Meet in the minister's room and bring ideas. Anyone who's interested, please come.
Okay.
I'm okay. And I'm going to add on to John's, I thought he would say something about it. May 6th, we're having the cleanup party that we have every spring and fall. So it's going to be May 6th, 10 to 9:30 to 1, I think we decided on. Like that. Just show up when you get here. And we're going to be doing all kinds of things outside to clean up. And if anybody wants to also clean up inside closets and things like that. So we're just going to gather here at 9:30. All right, thanks.
I was going to say something that's not church related, and I was thinking, is that the proper time right now? But since I'm up here already, there's a bulletin out on the bulletin board for an event that I'm having next Saturday in Mark Coventry at my shop for the Bell team. Thank you.
And I have two. One is I want to thank everybody who submitted the design for our new sign. They're right back there. And shows very bad scans, so don't complain about that I did yesterday. And we'll show them at the end of the service, and then we'll post them up on the board. And we're gonna have ballots, which I was copying. It's open to everybody to vote. Members, friends, go for it. You're gonna get one vote. You're gonna sign, yeah, Kate's got her hand. We'll have you sign for it, and we're gonna number them, because even though I'm from Chicago, we're not doing Chicago style vote early, vote often voting. We're going to do, the Alaska style, vote for your first, out of the five, your first choice and your second choice. So, we'll see how it goes. So we're gonna vote through, I can't remember what I said on the ballot. I think it's the 14th. And we'll announce the winner at the annual dinner on the 20th. And if anything comes to screw that up, I'll let you know. Second one is next week, we're going to start our pledge drive. Linda Kaczynski has a kitty emergency, she's at the kitty emergency room. So she was going to make the announcement that we're going to start the pledge drive next week, and we hope to have it wrapped up within a couple of weeks. So think about what your pledge was this year, what if you'd like it to be next year, and if you have any questions. Chris isn't here, but most of us can answer the question about what we're talking about. So, anybody else? Well, now, phones in worship mode and all that good stuff. Chimes will call us to silence. Other announcement, I have a really drippy nose. And it's not COVID because I tested. So Sam is going to light our chalice for us this morning. Come on, Sam, thank you for agreeing. So our chalice lighting is called For the Web of Light by Paul Sprecher. We light this chalice for the web of life which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life in which we have our being, for the earth, the sky, above and below, and for our Mother Earth, and for the mystery. Now please stay seated as we sing Spirit of Life. And thank you very much, Sam. And for my opening words this morning, I actually went and pulled an old file and modified them a little bit. But I was thinking about how some people call the disasters that happen around, in various places, God's revenge for some bad behavior or other. Most notably, the shameful way Some people said that the people of New Orleans deserved what they got in Hurricane Katrina. That was just appalling. I decided, what if they were right and God is trying to send us a message, just not the one that some people think is being sent. So here is my interpretation of the message from God. I worked very hard to create your Mother Earth. It took more than 6 days, but time can be relative. I gave you beautiful trees, plenty of fish, clear water, pure blue seas, abundant food, beautiful animals. And you learn how to use these things and to make humans prosper. For a long time, you took great care of what we were given. You used what you needed and taught others to do the same. I decided you were doing well and I could leave you alone for a while. So I could take care of the things that you really seemed to want me to pay attention to, such as whether to side with the offense or the defense. And it wasn't easy because each side was asking me to do something. Or should I let that child pass the test that they didn't study for? So while I was distracted, things seemed to take a turn for the worse. And you began hurting your mother. I waited a while to see if you could fix it yourselves. And whoa, there were all these voices out there saying what needed to be done and what was happening and how it happened and how we got here or how you got here. I was heartened. However, a few naysayers seemed to drown out the others. So I decided to give you a good swift kick in the pants. So I started sending some hints and waiting for you to figure out that, listen to those people. Crickets. So now I'm going to continue to send more hurricanes, tornadoes, typhoons, monster snowstorms, and whatever I can think of until you get the hint. Your mother even throws in an earthquake once in a while when she gets annoyed with you. So you better take our hints and shape up, because no matter how powerful you think you are, you don't have anywhere near the power we do. Would be smart to remember, Mother Nature always wins. So now, would you join me in singing This Little Light of Mine, number 180? And it's now time for our story for all ages, and I believe Miss Ruby's going to be leading that this morning. So everybody come up and grab your little rug, and let's see what Ruby has to tell us.
Ruby, and I have a story today. It's an adaptation of a story called The Star Thrower. It was written by Lauren Isley, and it was published in 1969 in a book titled The Unexpected Universe. Does anyone know what this is? That's right, it's a starfish, and there are other names for it too. Some people call it a sea star. You guys can pass it around while I read the story. One day, a man went for a walk on the beach, and in the distance, he saw a young boy. And the man said, "Good morning. May I ask what you're doing?" It looked like the boy was dancing on the beach, waving his arms around. I can hold on to it. And the boy said, "I am throwing starfish into the ocean. The sun is up and the tide will go out soon. And if I don't throw them back, they will surely die." The man looked at the boy, shook his head, and said, "But boy, the beach stretches for miles and miles, and there are starfish all along every mile. You can't possibly make any difference. You're not going to change anything." The boy turned away from the man and went back to his work. He threw another starfish into the ocean, and when it hit the water, the boy pointed to it, and he said, "Did you see that over there?" As it splashed into the water, and the boy said, "I made a difference for that one starfish." And the man didn't know what to say. The boy did have a point. The man was so touched by the boy's act of kindness and sympathy that he got down on his knees and began to help throw starfish back into the ocean. And together, they started to make a real difference. And slowly, other people on the beach saw what was happening, and they joined the young boy and the man in their efforts to save the starfish. And after some time, many, many starfish had been saved. The end. So kids, what do you think is the moral of the story? What's that? Oh, what do you think we can learn from the story? To always help others? Anything else? Oliver?
Helping yourself and helping others.
Yeah, sometimes when you help yourself with good intentions, you're helping others.
You can make a big change when you do a little thing.
That's right, you can make a big change when you do a little thing. Do you think that the boy was wasting his time? No. Even if he had only helped one starfish, do you think it was worth his time to do that?
Yes.
What do you think the starfish would say? Thank you. And sometimes I think starfish can be a little bit like people, or people can be a little bit like starfish. Sometimes people get lost and need a little help too.
And starfish kind of look like people. The tops point to their head, and these points are their arms, and the bottom points are their legs.
That's a good point. You guys can take the starfish back to your classroom. Let's sing the children out.
a while ago, Alan mentioned that since money doesn't grow on trees, we have to pass the basket in order to maintain our fellowship and keep the lights on. So now we're going to pass the basket, and all gifts are greatly appreciated. And I'm going to give you a little side note and just a little history, because that's what I do. A while back, a few centuries ago in Mesoamerica, money did grow on trees. You know what these are? Cacao, coffee beans. I mean, not coffee beans, chocolate. It's a half a pound that I bought in a little market in Colombia. And it's actually enough. My friend and I we're going to try and make a little chocolate out of it. We looked on the internet and saw how to do it. But it grew down where the Maya were. And when they traded up with the Aztecs, they sometimes paid in cacao because it was for royalty. And one of the ways that they could tell how rich Moctezuma was by his stores, his vast stores of cacao. So it did grow on trees, and I think you gotta admire a civilization that uses chocolate for money. So now the choir will come up and sing our servant hymn, "The Earth is Our Mother."
With special guest Oliver.
Thank you. And further bit of serendipity, I already put this in the order of service when Anna sent me an email saying that she wanted the choir to do this song. So we were singing it all way. But what can I do? We love our world, all the parts of it. The ones we see every day, the ones we see only when we venture far away, farther away. The ones we see only in pictures, and the ones we hope to see someday because no one has seen them like anyone. Like that new fish that they found in the sea a couple of weeks ago. But as much as we love her, we abuse her, and we take advantage of her. Mother Earth has given us abundant food, and water, and beauty, but none of them are limitless. The mountains are high, but we can reach the top. The plains, if you see them, look like they spread on endlessly, but they do end when they hit the Rockies, which can be crossed. It's not easy, but they can be crossed. And they end in fertile fields, and tall forests, and cities, which eventually stop at the ocean. She is big, she is powerful, yet at the same time vulnerable. Each part of her has a place, and everything on her has a place. But we need to make sure that we take care of her so we can maintain that balance and continue so she can take care of us and those who follow us. In addition to the physical planet, there's air around us. So far, it's the only planet we know that can sustain life. Maybe there's another one out there, but we haven't found it yet. So this is the home we have, and it's the one we must take care of. Climate change. The words are scary. They are real, and they evoke all sorts of reactions. There are those that say, what we're dealing with, oh, this is natural. It happens all the time, and they shrug and go, we didn't do anything to cause it, so we don't do anything to fix it. Maybe they're in denial, or as they say when you're in court and just decide to ignore the facts, it's a case of willful blindness at something staring you in the face. Then there are those of us who accept the science and know we're in a very perilous place in world history. We can jump up and say, we have to do something, and then we go, well, what? What can I do? Others may just want to go, it's too big, and hide under the covers. It's climate, it's the world, it's every single one of us. But to me, one thing wrong with a great deal of the current messaging is that we have to save the planet and or the polar bears. Well, Mother Earth, the planet itself, is going to be just fine. It's been here for a few billion years, spinning away in our Milky Way galaxy, and it's going to continue to be here for a few billion more years, spinning away in our galaxy until our star burns out and it takes Earth, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, and all the rest of our little solar system with it. And it's been through a lot worse than what we're currently going through. It's been through ice ages and heating cycles, and it was hit by a really, really big meteor that wiped out 90% of all the life on here. But what did the Earth do? It just kept spinning and doing its thing and regenerated new life forms, and eventually including us. I'm not a scientist, but I'm sure that list of upheavals is long. But our world just kept right on going, and it's going to keep going long after we're gone. I grew up during the Cold War, as did quite a few of you in here. And we had the drills of ready, hiding under our desks in case the nuclear bomb went off. The United States and other nations had the ability to wipe out every living thing on the planet. But had that happened, the planet, again, would have survived. It would have kept right on spinning. And it wouldn't have been inhabitable for a million years, but there were those who talked about surviving the nuclear holocaust. There are not enough iodine tablets. The Earth itself has not been through such big environmental change in our limited existence of 250,000 years or so. The last time that it was this hot, and was even a little hotter, was during the Pliocene, 3 million years ago. At that time, all of the land that holds such cities as New York, Tokyo, London, Osaka, Shanghai, Los Angeles, Buenos Aires, Mumbai, you get the idea, was underwater. It's estimated that it was about 5 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the pre-industrial temperatures of the 1880s. The difference is 3 million years ago, it was a natural, gradual release of CO2 into the atmosphere. There was time for whatever life there was to adapt or not. Or heavens go extinct if it couldn't adapt in time. We're releasing CO2 so quickly right now at such a relentless rate, causing these temperatures to rise rapidly and the ice to melt faster. And excuse me. And we know what the air was like in the past because scientists, they drill down into the ice cores at the poles and at the glaciers and high in the mountains. And found particularly at the South Pole, it snows about an inch a year. And it goes, have you ever heard it's too cold to snow? Well, it's too cold and it's too dry. So it snows about an inch a year. And so they drill down into the ice core and they just count down the inches and you can see different things happening. And I saw one of the cores once and they counted back and they go, that black line, that's Mount St. Helens. And it was just a black line around this white, mostly white core of snow, of ice. The ice caps in the Arctic are disappearing and we all know that the mammoth bergs that break off in Antarctica have caused sea levels to rise a few inches already. And people are being displaced or planning on being displaced, particularly island nations. Now, there are ebbs and flows. It gets colder some years and warmer others. And no one knows how long it's going to take the ice in Antarctica to melt. Estimates are from a couple hundred to a few thousand years. It's a lot of ice. So, because even when it's warm at the South Pole, it's still at the moment really, 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 really cold. So whether it melts in 200 or 2,000 years, we as a species will not be able to adapt that fast. We're not made for that kind of heat. Now, you have some expert disagreement on a couple of things. Excessive heat and excessive cold are deadly. But we got a couple of expert federal agencies that don't quite agree which is worse. The NOAA, the Atmospheric National Oceanic, estimates heat is responsible for more deaths than cold each year. Well, the CDC said, nope, it's cold. And the problem is death certificates are not always that finite in figuring out which. My personal take, and Linda Kaczynski, if she wasn't taking care of a kitty, could confirm it. I don't do heat. Heat to me is much, much, much worse. I have never been able to stand it, and I would, if you say, okay, it's 100 degrees here and 0 degrees here, I'll go to the 0. To me, it's much better. As I said a minute ago, sea levels rise as many of the world's largest cities will be underwater, and they have to prepare. And how prepared are they? We saw what just Hurricane Sandy, that small thing relatively, did to New York. And how it impacted Manhattan. New Orleans is already underwater. Or not underwater, it's below sea level. They have a serious problem. There is one top 10 city, world city, that will be hunky-dory, just fine and dandy, and it's not all that far away. You know what it is. Top 10 population city.
One.
Mexico City. It is, if London's underwater too. Mexico City is 7,300 feet, a mile and a half up in the mountains. It's going to be fine, but we all can't move down there because it's already massive with more than 20 million people. Traffic is, well, you've never seen such traffic. So we need to heed the warning of the experts and see what we can do. It's not just the US or Pottstown, as we know, it's world. And it's an industrialized world, and it's been going around, and it's visible for quite a while. We love Claude Monet's beautiful paintings. And there's some pictures that he did of London where he's painted this, it looks gorgeous in his work, haze over London. Well, now as people look back, they realize he's looking at industrialized London, and that is pollution that he has painted. Now, people knew that it stunk, but they didn't know what it was doing to them or to the planet. And it took a while to figure out what was happening. And in my talk a while back during COVID, we know there's a 40-year lag. So whatever we are experiencing now happened in the 1980s. What we do now, we will see 40 years from now. A lot of us here won't be here. So it's very hard to think about doing something for the future that doesn't impact, oh, it's not going to impact me. And we say, we're doing it for our grandkids. Well, actually, you're doing it for your grandkids. It's a long-term thing. So on that cheery notes, what I'm going to say is we're not talking about saving the planet. We're talking about saving ourselves. And if we can save those big, mean polar bears, it's a bonus. Completely behind the 8 ball. Most of the world recognizes climate change is a human-caused problem that needs human solutions. The Paris Accords were an acknowledgement of that. And private companies are going, well, government's been a little slow here, and the people are demanding things. So what are they doing? They're building electric cars. And more energy is being produced by wind and solar, whether you like it or not. From a client standpoint, the cloud makers down the road are clean energy. They're not producing any CO2. And there's even a process that reduces the nuclear waste, which is what everybody cares about. It's used in France, and it reduces nuclear waste by 90%. We've got some folks in Harrisburg that have tried to get it used here, but I think it's the military that won't allow it. Because it requires weapons grade uranium. But I'm sure they're still working on refining it. Then there are the airplane manufacturers who are trying to come up with a fuel that is cleaner and frankly less expensive. And they have come up with something apparently that they think has possibility, but it tends to blow up. So we really cannot have an exploding fuel on an airplane, just not a good idea. So this brings me to something that I heard from a fellow traveler in Antarctica in 2021. His name is Dr. Robert Ben Chandler, and okay, it's early on the West Coast, so he's not up yet. He's a glaciologist, and he even has a glacier named after him down there in Antarctica. He's been down there more than 30 times doing research. He lives in Washington State and has come up with a group activity called Taming Bigfoot. And Bigfoot, Pacific Northwest, anyway. Bigfoot means your carbon footprint. How can we tame our carbon footprint? So I have a modified slide deck that he sent me. And I'm going to have to look at them with you because I don't have a darn thing written down. So we're going to go through them. It's an idea for an activity for this group and the community at large. And I'm just going to give you the bare bones, and we can maybe talk about it later and see what we can do. It's nothing going to be done. Oh, we're going to do that next month. No, it takes time to prepare. And Bob said he would help us. So he's like, oh, good, you're still thinking about this. So he was very excited. So if we could bring the big slide up and me a little. Okay. So here's the first one. There's Bigfoot, and Bigfoot being CO2. But it's something, you can go to the next one. Okay, Bob's lower left with the big smile and the mustache. And this is the group that started this process. So go ahead. There we go. And they're like, what can I do? What can little old me want me? What can I do to make sure it matters? Next slide, please. And these are the participants. Would be us. People we bring in. Businesses, because we hope there are prizes for winning teams. That hopefully the businesses give and the businesses advertise. Electeds, well, we know some, we've had, we know some of our, Harrisburg, folks in Harrisburg. And then we would try to get Pottstown, and Reading papers and any other papers. Well, if you get too far, that's not gonna happen. Next slide. And this is the build slide, so if you hit like 4 times, this is just an example of what different people, and these are what they have. And I don't have the answer here because he had it in his head and he didn't send it to me. But you look at each person, you go, okay, these are the lives they live. And then you have, what is the life I live? And you decide, well, I think I'm doing great things, but maybe you're actually, that the person with the highest footprint is not, or the lowest footprint is not who you think it is. And next slide. And this is a build slide, so just let it rip. Because I'm not gonna go through all the things, but it's basically, there's an app that we would all, download, and this is where we have to talk with Bob, because he would customize it to this area. And it involves a little work for everybody. If you had it, or you had a diet, you gotta log what you ate. Well, you log what you did, and you get your, as a team, you get your climate footprint. And then you decide how you're going to make it work. I'm not doing this very well because I don't know what's next, so go to next slide. Okay, go, just let her go. I think that's it. Okay, yeah, it's 3 months. So you get, everybody comes in, as many people as you can get. Now, it's not your family. So maybe couples could be together, kids could be together, but you want people from different walks of life. So we might want to have, say, I'm going to throw a name out there and hope Katie Muth on one team, and then somebody else, and you have different people who lead different types of lives. You gather your data for a month as a team. Here they had 7-member teams. They can be 5, 6, 7 people. You gather your data as a team over the course of the month. You come back in and you see where that team stands, and the leadership helps you figure out that as a team, you decide what you're going to cut. As individuals, okay, this team uses a lot of gas. Okay, what are we gonna do? We're gonna carpool, how are we gonna cut that? And then over the next couple of months, you do it. You try to reach your goal. And everybody comes back together and you see how you stood. And the next slide in the lessons learned, it isn't easy. So we can't say, oh, this is gonna be painless. It's not. But what they did discover was some things, how do I put it? Like if I was on the team that said, oh, let's just cut gas emissions. This is the first time my car's been out of the garage since last Sunday. I'm not gonna help. I've driven 4 miles in a week in a Prius. So consequently, my carbon footprint in the car is pretty bad. It is non-existent. Now, the one place we did have an argument with Mr. Ben Shadler, Dr. Ben Shadler, was the airplane trip. Because our argument was, A, we wouldn't have been there without a plane. And B, that plane was going to take off whether I filled that one seat or not. So, but airplane travel is not a good thing. So next slide. We can include the children as a fun activity for the kids. We work as a team. You talk to each other. Hey, I'm doing this. What do you think of that? And all that. And he says it's appealing and fun. So next slide. And their results were, and you see he did it at a UU in Washington. They reduced their carbon footprint by 10% in 2 months. That group as a whole, which is a big amount. And then let's see. I can't remember if this is the last slide or not. Let's go. Yeah, it's been used all over Washington. then he mentioned actually how this presentation got done here. He and I were talking about something in passing. We had lunch together. Somebody overheard us and he ended up doing the presentation to everybody else. So it actually spread around right there. It was spreading around the world. So next step, next one. Okay, back. Back, go back one, please. Okay, so that's the outline. I don't know how clear it is, but I think it would be a very you thing to do, very you hostile thing to do. I also think it would be a good way, it's a good social justice move and getting us involved in the community and going out and seeing what can we do with the community. And he said he will give us all the help we need. You know, we could set up a time where he can zoom in. So we'll think about that and you can ask questions. If I know the answer, I will answer it later. But now I'm going to give you another thing that can be done. Couple other things. We can vote. Somebody said, oh, I don't know, it's undecided. Vote. No, they don't get your vote. It's, yeah, climate science is real and we need to do something about it. You can also plant a tree or 10, but an even bigger impact is to make sure that we protect these slides. These guys now hit the slide. Yes, whales, because if Mary can talk about whales, she's going to. They are incredible combatants against climate change. And all they have to do is exist. In December of 2019, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, Finance Development Magazine, said helping whales is one of the biggest things that should be done to remove carbon from the air. The great whales, such as the orca, the blue, the humpback, the sei, the fin, is in that case, on average store 33 tons of CO2 in their bodies. It doesn't hurt them a lick. And then they don't release it until their carcasses decay at the bottom of the ocean, which can take decades, even 100 years. And this doesn't even include the little tiny whales like the porpoises and the dolphins, which store a smaller amount, but they do it. There you go. How does that compare to a tree? Trees store, on average, 48 pounds of carbon a year. So if you have a tree that lives an average lifespan of a whale, which is, I'm going to say 50 years, although some can live over 100, that's a little over a ton of carbon stored. Whales also do something else. They support the production of phytoplankton, which contributes 50% of all the oxygen to the atmosphere, and which captures as much as CO2 as 1.7 trillion trees, equal to 4 Amazon rainforests, or 70 times greater than all the redwood forests in the United States. According to the study, increasing the phytoplankton productivity by 1% would have the same effect as the sudden appearance of 2 billion mature trees. The whole whale phytoplankton circle is a talk in and of itself. It's amazing. The contribution of whales to climate health is so important. The study concluded their survival and coordinating the economies of whale protection must rise to the top of the global community's climate agenda. They wrote, since the role of whales is irreplaceable in mitigating and building resilience to climate change, their survival should be integrated into the objectives of the 190 countries in the 2015 signed Paris Agreement for combating climate risk. As with all solutions, there are costs. You know, you have to change shipping lanes and how people did things like that to stop whale strikes. But they put the value of each single animal at $2 million. That included carbon, the carbon absorbed, and the economic contributions from increasing the phytoplankton to fisheries. And of course, ecotourism, because they're really cool to watch. From 1900 to 1999, more than 3 million whales were hunted. And current estimates put the survivors in the ocean at about 1.5 million. These researchers argued that if the whale population were allowed to grow back to around 4 to 5 million, it would capture 1.7 billion tons of CO2 every year. Plus, it would be a heck of a lot easier to find them. Because usually you're looking at a picture like the next one. And you're looking and you're looking and you're hoping that you're going to find the next one. Let me see that glow. And there it is. And if you're really lucky, you'll get the next picture. And since some folks say, oh, it's too expensive, we can't do things to fix the climate, we'll put the monetary value on that 1,000 whales that we saw, $2 billion. Where in our life, where will I ever see $2 billion in one place ever again? So, in conclusion, fight climate change, save the whales. So, thank you, blessed be, and we don't have time right now, but we'll do, if you want to talk about taming Bigfoot after we close the service, I'd be more than happy. And I'll write down questions and send them to a certain somebody who actually knows. So if you would join me in singing our closing song, number 1064 in the Teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home. Thank you for joining us. We need to remember that every day's journey starts with just one little step. then it's followed by another, and another, and another. And before you know it, you've reached your destination. As our seventh principle says, we are part of the interdependent web of all existence. So we can do this, and we can continue our journey to climate health. Blessed be. And we can now close the online. Or the thank you. Now let's extinguish the toast. Please say it along with me. We extinguish the flame of the light of wisdom,
the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and in our plans until we are together again.
Now, I promised you the ballot, the sign designs. I think they're next. If not, we'll just click until we find them. Oh, poor Emily. She's getting a workout this morning. Okay. Oh, they weren't, crud. Never mind. All right. They're a separate file out there that's a PDF. But what we're going to do is we'll put them up